And we're back with the Nerd Log, everybody. Thank you so much. We had a fun time talking about AI ops, and we just were teed up talking about integrating incidents into Jira. So we've got a friend of the show, Adam Johnson here. Adam, why don't you say hi to the people? Tell them what you do for New Relic. That way. Hi to the people, tell them what you do for New Relic. There we go.
Hey everyone, I am Adam Johnson. I'm a product manager working on Errors Inbox, synthetics, and some other stuff, but here to talk about Errors Inbox today. Been on the show before, but we got some new stuff to show today, so I'm excited about that.
I love that. So Errors Inbox is essentially just a concept of being able to look and see what is coming in a cohesive way. You have the question, like, what's going on in my stack that looks wrong, right? It's like Errors Inbox is a place to do that. It is not just a place to see just like your HTTP errors or just your errors that got off the stack. It's a cohesive view. Tell me, maybe I said that wrong, buddy. Help me out there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, basically, it's a very minimalistic way to view all of your errors grouped together for the services that your team cares about. And our goal is to make it so that it's easy for developers, DevOps, anyone who cares about errors to hop in, very quickly scan the inbox to see what may be new in the last 24 hours or even hour. If you just pushed a new release to staging, you might want to pop in and see, hey, what's new in this new version before you push out to production. So that's kind of the goal. And then we've built collaboration and triage workflows around those error groups as well. So that can kind of fit in with your team's workflows.
I love that. I'm just checking all of our social feeds where we all have comments being like, we can hear you. You exist. Don't be afraid. Do we want to switch over to screen share and take a look at it working?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. Sending live. It is live. Confirm it's live. Hey, let's maybe get one step of zoom in and enhance. Let's see if we get.
Might break things.
Yeah, let's see if we break things.
We'll try. Okay. The stack traces will look funny though.
No worries if we have to go back. It's very nice as somebody who deals with visual impairment. It's very nice that one can zoom in. Of course, right? A level of zoom is going to break the seeing all of the data in one sheet without scrolling, right? So we have to shift back and forth a little bit. But
it still functions though.
We're comes with the territory. Yeah.
A11T, O11T. Best friends.
Exactly.
Yes. Let me find a good. Here, this one's good. I have all kinds of different errors inboxes, so I'm trying to keep track of them all. So this one is this is good to just kind of show an overview. So this is like a sample e-commerce application, which it consists of a bunch of different microservices, some front end, single page application, a lot of back end services. Couple different front end services. So with Errors Inbox, you're seeing basically a list of all of the errors for those services that your team cares about. We use workloads to determine what services you actually want to see in an inbox, so you have full control over that. That's pretty easy to set up. You can either just manually select the services that you want to include, or you can create rule sets to specify, based on tag or naming schemes. How you want to organize those things. And then you can also, have multiple inboxes. So if you wanted one for dev, staging, prod for your team, that's easy to do as well. And Errors Inbox, the behind the scenes, what Errors Inbox is doing is analyzing all of the raw error events coming into New Relic. So if you're already sending data to New Relic, we're already doing this for you. You don't have to do anything to enable it. We're essentially going through and trying to group together errors. So we're looking at error messages and looking for unique identifiers that might make it hard to group those errors together. And we're basically normalizing those out and creating a fingerprint for those normalized errors.
Yeah, this is like a massive issue when we try to say, hey, there is one kind of error happening, right?
Yeah.
You do not want to be saying, well, there's one error with user ID 1 and another totally separate kind of error with user ID 2.
Like this one here has bytes in the error message, so that's gonna result in a lot of different error messages, obviously. Yeah. So we try to be intelligent out of the box and group those together as best we can. And then once we do that, we actually generate metrics for that error group, and then we store that long term. So this is stored for 13 months. You'll be able to see, the error name and message along with the time series metrics over a long period of time. So if you wanted to, I think this might be where there's an issue with the zoom. If you wanted to change the time frame, let me zoom out one notch. There we go. If I wanted to go back, let's see what happens when we go to 6 months.
Well, we're trying to group all of our errors the last 6 months.
Yeah, what's that look like? It might take a minute because there's probably a lot of errors here, and it probably didn't work.
Yeah, it's
sometimes we get a timeout. So
I've got a random question while we wait for this load. Why 13 months? That's it's like a baker dozens of months. That's a very specific number.
Yeah, I believe that the request there often starts with e-commerce people. That if they look at a past year, that means they're missing Black Friday last year, right? And so what they really want to be comparing is, all that we have of November this year with all of November last year. They don't want it to stop at November 15th last year because that removes the Black Friday spike. So, like a bunch of e-commerce sites, Black Friday is not the only thing about that. Essentially, anybody who's selling physical goods online deals with seasonality quite a bit. So they want that 13-month view so that they get that complete piece. Well, many things I learned from having worked at tech support in New Relic. It was a really common question.
That's a great answer and a great question.
Check out, by the way, on the YouTube feed. It's coming out, I think, tomorrow. The piece on time aggregation and the new time aggregation methods, because that used to be when I was the senior tech support person, we used to really get deep on that because people ask these questions like, why is the traffic always falling off? And it's well, because your time window stops now. So not everything is reported yet, right? And it was can I change how we aggregate those little few time boxes? At the time, there was no configurability. There's a ton now in New Relic. It's really, really cool. So anyway, check out that. It's a little side note, but yeah.
Well, so I was able to get the 6-month view working instead of showing that inbox, which had a bunch of services. I think it just had a ton of services, and this account is being shared by lots of users for demo purposes. So sometimes we run into some throttling. What I did was I went to a specific service APM view, and there's also an errors inbox there. And since we're only querying one service, it's much faster. So within a second or two, I was able to see 6 months of errors for this service. And you can look at these spark lines, which show you the occurrences. So that kind of very quickly helps you scan through, what are the top errors happening over the last 6 months. And you can visually kind of see, were these things happening all the time? Or did something spike suddenly and bubble up to the very top? And, we're seeing hundreds of thousands of those errors. That probably needs attention sooner rather than later. So with that 13-month amount of data that we're collecting, you would be able to go back to last Black Friday and holiday events and see what did that look like then versus now. Is there any sort of correlation there? We don't have data going back that far because this is a newer service from about 6 months ago. So your data will go back that far as long as you've been sending us those errors from that long. So that's the high level of errors inbox. And as I mentioned, we have triaging built into it. So that basically lets you do things like resolve an error if you fix it or ignore it. If it's something that is just always going on. Some errors are just more informational and they're not really a problem. They're not necessarily impacting your users if the system is designed properly. So you might want to.
It's one of those value of null things where it's you have stacks that will raise an error when you use a bad coupon code. right?
Exactly.
And so it's like, well, yeah, maybe that is an error for your definition of error, but like, the user just saw, hey, this coupon code is expired, right? Like that's all
Exactly.
fine, right? Like
that's right. And you'll also see these little gravatars here. There's me. So you can also assign errors to someone as well. So if you say, oh, this is actually related to code that I just pushed, I'm going to assign it to myself, so that you can kind of keep track of it. You can filter by errors assigned to you or other people if you want to organize it that way as well. Then if we jump into the error, this one is not super interesting, so I think it hasn't happened in a while, so we don't have any raw error events, but mainly I just want to show what you can do with it. So you can see the activity. There is no activity for this. Let me like make something happen here. I'm going to ignore this error for now. We should have some, hopefully, activity showing up here. Live demo fun. There we go. Okay, so any of the activity, like changing the status, assigning it to someone, should show up in here.
Yeah.
And
the goal here being, I mean, we can't already imagine, like, it matters so much, like, hey, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I'm, the newest SRE on the team. It's like, well, someone set this to ignore. And why?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. I'll stop ignoring this now. And then you can also discuss errors as well. And this is rich discussion. So we support full markdown. You can you can put like, images and GIFs in here if you wanted to, links, however you want to collaborate. we support that, as well as threaded discussions. So if you have someone who said, I'll take a look at it, you say, thanks, I'm talking to myself here, but you get the idea of how this works. That's kind of how we built this out. So naturally,
an example might well be, right, like, like this is an error raised when someone uses a bad coupon code. It's like, because you want to be able to mark someplace, every place if you can, like, please do not wake me up that we have like a 200% error rate, right?
That's
Someone
right.
just put a fake coupon code on Reddit. Like, it's not my fault, right?
That's
like,
right,
it's
exactly.
not, let's just shut down the alarms, please.
Exactly. So naturally, like those types of like triaging and assigning and collaboration type of functionality really aligns with like how people generally work on errors. And some people we found, not surprisingly, prefer to do a lot of that in a different tool, like Jira, for example. So we have built Jira integration to support that workflow as well. So your team can basically choose like how you want to collaborate. If you want to do it all within New Relic One, fantastic. If you prefer your source of truth to be Jira, we want to make that as easy as possible as well. So you'll see now we have, as of this morning, this is the first demo of this in GA ever. So hopefully it goes well, because we just launched this morning. So you'll see now, like, there's a Jira icon next to every single error, and that basically gives you quick actions to create Jira tickets off of the error, so you can get it managed in that system that you prefer it to be done in. And you can do it from both the inbox view directly, or the error details as well. So if you're in an error detail and you're like, hey, I just need to create a Jira ticket off of this, we can do that. I haven't set it up yet, so I can walk through what that looks like. I did connect my Jira workspace, so I'm not sharing my token, but it's pretty easy. You just give it a name, pop in the URL of your Jira workspace, enter your username, and then your API token. And then you can choose two-way integration or not. We don't currently support two-way integration in Errors Inbox, but that's something we're going to be supporting. So if you want to...
Yeah, so this is the idea, like you could resolve something in Jira and it would come back and resolve here.
Exactly.
Ooh.
So how we anticipate that working is we'll give you a lot of control over what's synchronized in what direction. So it can be like a full two-way, or it can be a one-way. So if you prefer to do all of your triaging in Jira and you just want that to reflect into Errors Inbox, we would support that, for example. Or if you have some users want to do it all in New Relic One and some want to do it in Jira, we can go both directions and just kind of make it all synchronized as well. The assignee as well as the status, and possibly the commenting as well. We may do that too. So once you've set that up, it will show up under this little Jira menu. There's 2 workspaces connected, but no templates created. We built this with speed in mind. So the idea is you set up a template first, and then once you have a template, it's 2 clicks to create a Jira ticket. So I'll do one for our team, air tracking bugs, I'll call it. And then I'll select my workspace. And then this is actually dynamically pulling data from your Jira workspace. So if I select, I only have one project.
Fancy.
And it'll show me, oh, here's all the issue types. And each issue type might, oh no, each issue type might have a different, let me try a different one in case I messed up my.
Yeah, I mean, this is also like our demo Jira space. So of course, like it might not have things set up correctly. Like that's
Correct.
not really. It's not that surprising.
Let's
But
try this one here.
There we go.
This works.
Hey,
I think there's something wrong
Hey.
with my free Jira thing. So I'll choose bug, do error tracking, bugs, and then you'll see that like we also populate the required fields automatically. So you'll see all the required fields. You can also add whatever other fields you want that are optional, and we put in a suggested set of templates. We have these handlebar templates. So if you wanted to include something like a link to the error, you can do that by just adding a little handlebar there. So you can modify the description how you see fit, and then you got to just set the reporter. Since this is like a template, I suggest doing automation. We have that user. There we go. Like a shared user, like a bot user.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea here is like you don't want to modify this. You just want to click twice and have it done as quick as possible. So
yeah, you don't want it to be that every single automated thing comes from a gal who left your team two months ago, right? Like
that's right.
Have it just be from like New Relic Reporter Bot or something. Right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. Right. So we'll update that template, and now we should see that available in the dropdown. So there we go, error tracking bugs. So now, once I've set that up, you only have to do that once, 1 click, 2 clicks, and we have a Jira ticket created for this error group, and it will contain the error group, the name of the error, the message, links to the entity, so you can go straight to APM, and a link directly to errors inbox, so you can get straight to the stack trace to start debugging right away. So that's what we do. It's once you've done that, you'll see that the link will be attached to this error as well. So you can very quickly reference that. We also kind of change the highlighting of the icon here. So when you're in the inbox, I might need to refresh. You should see that show up there as well. So you can quickly see which errors have had issues created. Those may be more important to you than others, or it gives you an identification that like this error has been triaged already. So you may not want to. So you may not need to look at it.
I love it.
And I might have an issue here. So we'll figure that out. But
listen, automation makes everything better, and this seems like a really huge automation that just makes so many people's lives so much easier.
Yeah,
that's right.
The ability to actually make some filtering and decide like what body is actually coming in, like that's pretty major, right? Because something I always hear, or something I sort of repeat as a truism is, occasionally you hear people like, oh, I absolutely hate Jira as a tool, right? And I know that can't be right because, of course, they're not talking about Monday.com, the worst tool ever designed by any human being. But Jira, sometimes it's like, oh my God, Jira's such a slog. I'll be honest with you. What you really hate is your team's process, right? Yeah. Like you set it up so it's sucking a lot of time out of your week, or there's a lot of back and forth, or you feel like, everything you do, you want to get done is like fill out forms in triplicate, which is absolutely a feeling I have had on teams. It's like, oh my god, I'm over here again. I'm copying and pasting. I'm copying and pasting this GitHub thing. I'm copying and pasting this. And that is really rough. So you really want to, my recommendation is, you really want to take a pause, especially when it's like just everybody's kind of skating crawls when they think about Jira. It's like, look at what your process actually is with that. What can you automate out? Yeah. What is maybe not necessary? Do you have 27 required fields to log a ticket, right? Like, what can be done to make this work a little better for your team? Because, good automation is really, really strong.
And the automation means repeatability, which means you know exactly where to look every time to get the information you need, which is even better about like this automation that we're doing here. You know exactly where in the Jira ticket you need to look for to get all the information that you need, where all the links are. It just really adds a layer of optimization to the responder or the engineer who's ever taking charge of the ticket's life. PMs are quaking everywhere.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that touches on another interesting point about like the team process is probably like the most complicated thing to get right. It's not really a technology problem. And the same is true with error tracking. So one of the things that we've seen that are the most that where teams are the most successful are teams that have taken that pause, had a working agreements discussion to figure out like, what is our process? What should we be doing? Doesn't need to be heavyweight, but everyone just needs to be on the same page as to here's how we want to collaborate. Here's where the source of truth is. And this is our process. And I highly recommend having error tracking as part of that process for releases. So for example, when you're making a release to staging environment, one of the tasks should be just pop into errors inbox, or you can send the errors to Slack as well. If you enable Slack integration, you'll get them just piped into the channel of your choice. So if you just made a push to staging today, you just hop in there and see what are the new errors that occurred or what regressions occurred. You'll get notifications for each of those right in there. That takes you really just a few seconds to look at. Then you can figure out, is this an error that's going to be a deal breaker for pushing to production or not? Is this something that's going to be impacting users in a negative way? And follow that process that your team decided on to make that, make sure that gets the priority that it needs, whether that's, assigning in errors inbox directly and having a collaboration inside NR1, or working it in Jira, where it's aligned with your development backlog. Whatever you do, as long as the team is all on the same page, I think that's where we see the most success from teams. And it really like saves them a lot of time in the long run, because that few seconds they take to pop in and just check errors daily or whenever they're making releases saves them so much time later on, because you don't want to later find out that you have an error rate alert paging you in the middle of the night a week later, and you've now forgotten the context of that code change that happened a week ago. You want to catch it as soon as possible while it's still fresh in the brain, so you can knock it out, and so that users aren't impacted by it.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. That has some, open an IDE. God, talk about power. That's really neat.
Yeah. I wanted to like touch upon that too, because that's like the other thing is like the first thing you do, like that workflow, right? Like you hop into Slack, you see there's an error yesterday. Okay, let's check that out. It's not the same error, but it's just whatever I have pulled up. Typically, like you're going to go to the stack trace, you're going to copy the stack trace, you're going to go to your IDE or GitHub and start searching for like certain lines of code, and try to then figure out what was the last commit for that line of code, who made the commit, what is that code even doing, and then what changed and why, and was that the reason why this error happened? That's a lot of steps. So again, in the name of trying to just reduce the number of steps possible, we have this awesome Open an IDE button where you just click the button. It will ask you which IDE you use for the first time. If you've done this before, it'll just automatically open it. I use VS Code. And it will open up VS Code. and it will pull up the error. I don't have this repo downloaded locally, but if I did, I would see that stack trace show up inside my IDE, inside this CodeStream plugin. And if I click around line to line on the stack trace, it's going to navigate through my local code base to the exact file and line of code with the exact version where this error occurred. So you don't have to go through all of those steps. It's now just a couple clicks away for you. So that's really like what we're trying to do, is identify like all of these very repetitive manual steps that require lots of context switching for developers who just don't have time, but you still have to do it. And what can we do to just streamline that as much as possible and just make it almost magical for developers?
Yeah, and in the chat, Coding Path says, "Oh, that's nice." Like, totally, yeah. It's super cool to see like just how quickly we were able to integrate CodeStream into the product, and to see it like really be such a massive game changer. Something as simple as being able to just drop right into the IDE seems like genuinely a no-brainer, but the fact that like it's taken this long for people to even realize that now that we have it, it's like, catch up, you know? Like, where are you at?
Yeah. And, you know, again, it is funny that we're just now seeing this transformation where we're thinking about observability for people who write code. You know, not for the expert on the team, not for the person who happens to be on call that week, but you know, for everybody to be using observability in a complete way, even during the development cycle, but certainly during like the test deployment cycle. And that seems pretty powerful.
Exactly. So, and if you haven't checked out CodeStream, like there's so much more that's so cool in there. It does a ton of stuff. This is like an example where they have like this thing called a code mark, where if you're actively working on code and you need to like quick ask a teammate about a particular part of the code, or maybe get some feedback, but you don't want to make a full featured like pull request. You know, you don't want to like do that hack where you make a pull request and you're like, don't merge. I just want to get feedback. Instead, they have that native concept built into the IDE where you can request feedback directly from your teammates. And if they don't have CodeStream, you can also send it directly to things like Slack, and they can converse directly in Slack, and it shows up in your IDE. It's all synchronized. The same is true with errors, where if you have a discussion going on about an error, you can either have that happen in Slack, in CodeStream, or in New Relic, and it's all synchronized together. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's very, very neat. So, Adam, was there anything else you want to shut? I mean, this is a really complete one, and I know you got to go, but so I think this is it for today. We're going to have you back for Errors Inboxes. I really think that
we got more coming.
Yeah. In the very near future, Errors Inbox will be the place that most people have set. It's like this is where they start in New Relic, right? Is like start here to kind of, especially if it's like, hey, you're responding to some kind of incident or message. It's like, oh yeah, this will be where to start. Maybe the Slack channel where Errors Inbox is like dumping stuff is like showing up. But yeah, Errors Inbox will be like, okay, that's the first interface I want to look at.
Definitely.
All right. Well, folks, that is the Nerd Log. So check us out every Thursday, but not the next 2 Thursdays. Those are right out. Next Thursday is
Thanksgiving
in the U.S. We moved it, right? Originally it was Canadian Thanksgiving, right? It's the same time, but then to assist with holiday shopping during, I believe, the Ford administration, it was moved later. So that's fun. And then we got reInvent after that. I'll be on the floor at reInvent.
I will too!
Hey! If you're going to be at reInvent and you want to see how bad I am at every NES game ever made, despite it being the only video game system in my house, I recently watched someone, I was flipping through TikTok, and someone was playing that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartridge on TikTok, and that game is impossible! And it was so nice to see, like, me and my cousin played that thing for, weeks straight, and we got about 10% of the way through it ever. And yeah, looking at it now and seeing, like, every time you change screens, you have to, like, de-input immediately to avoid damage. It was like, oh yeah, this game was impossible. Good to know. Nice fun memories.
I mean, I'll be at reInvent If you swing by the New Relic booth, I'll be giving talks at our private little lightning talk booth that we have. I'm giving a talk about Jamstack and Jamstack security for beginners that also utilizes New Relic. So if you want to come by and see me talk in person, if you're tired of watching me talk on Twitch, you could see me in person too.
I have inhaled a piece of coconut, and on that note, I am going to close out the stream. Wait, no, we got to do one more. Adam, where can you want to be found?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm ADJohn on Twitter. That's pretty much it. And I am hiring. So we have some engineer roles and product manager roles available. So find me and message me if you have any interest in working on this product. We'd love to have you on board.
If you've been working in the nonprofit sector and are super good at making projects happen, please love yourself and switch to tech and give us a call. If you see any listed role at New Relic and you think you might possibly be right for it, feel free to direct message me at serverless_mom on Twitter, and I'm happy to look at it with you.
Or me.
I bet that's true. That's true of all of us.
Anyone.
Yeah, ending with Allie or AD John for sure. If you're looking for something that's looks like it might be on Adam's team, but that's an open invitation. I did 2 of those last week. Kind of long conversations about not at New Relic, but they were like I'd done a talk on pay and pay rate and said, hey, message me, and that was really neat. Actually, it was really, really cool. So I love that. And on that note, I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.